The radio spectrum is massive, and it's filled with normal things like broadcast radio and air traffic control, and strange things like government number stations. It can be unpredictable, and you never know who's listening or who's transmitting. So join me today as we look back at some crazy stories from the world of radio. A mysterious voice known as the Roanoke Phantom was causing problems at the Roanoke Regional Airport in 1993. Using an aviation transmitter mounted in a car, the Phantom would issue official sounding instructions to pilots. Originally, the Hoax air traffic controller would simply chat with air crews, inviting them to smoke marijuana with him after they landed, but then things got much worse. He told pilots they weren't cleared to land after they had been cleared to land by the tower. He told pilots that their runway was closed because of a disabled aircraft, and told landing pilots to hold short of a runway intersection. He instructed a departing plane to climb to 12,000 feet after it had been cleared to go to 10,000, and in this instance he repeated the instruction 4 times when the pilot requested clarification. He also transmitted distress signals supposedly coming from aircraft and briefly pretended to be the medevac helicopter based at Roanoke Memorial Hospital on 2 occasions. In addition, the man, who we'll call Bo Cook, used obscene language, harassed a female air traffic controller, made threats to shoot down aircraft, and transmitted recorded music, weather reports and warnings about his own activities. Bo Cook was warned repeatedly to get off the frequency and was told that his transmissions were unauthorised. From August 1, 1993 until his arrest on September 22, 1993, Bo Cook continued to broadcast unauthorised radio messages. In court, he pled guilty to willfully communicating false information and thereby endangering aircraft, broadcasting obscene language, and was sentenced to a term of 124 months in jail in January of 1994. A shortwave pirate station operating on the outskirts of London during the summer of 1997 was unintentionally responsible for a bomb alert that shut down one of Europe's busiest motorways for 2 hours. The station, RFL, was operating from a secret location in the woods beside the motorway and was drawing its power from an electrical junction box on the edge of the carriageway. In the weeks before, the IRA had targeted the UK's motorway network with bombs and bomb scares, so when a Transportation Department maintenance worker discovered the cables connected to the roadside box, he contacted authorities who traced the wires into the woods. The roadway was closed while investigators determined that the equipment was a transmitter and not a bomb. RFL staff said that the government seized 2 shortwave transmitters, as well as 1 cassette player, 2 aerials, a ground rod and a cable. In the summer of 1997, someone set out on a mission to jam the communications of a volunteer emergency service organisation in Elkhart, Indiana. Jamming devices were found planted inside beach balls placed along the river over the summer, and some were also found in homes around the area. Amazingly, one jammer was equipped with a seismic detector that turned itself off if a direction finding team came too close. According to an ARRL letter, a couple in Elkhart, Indiana admitted planting a number of battery-powered radio jamming devices. The transmitters were designed to block off the repeater of the Elkhart County Civil Defense Emergency Response Team. Although local authorities found out who the 2 people responsible were, they said they didn't have jurisdiction in the case and asked for the FCC to investigate. In the middle of the night in East Dallas, Texas in July 1992, fire station sirens began to wail all of a sudden. Locals woke up alarmed, turned on their radio scanners to find out what was going on, but all that could be heard on the air was routine traffic. The next weekend rolled around and, once again, the ghost sirens were triggered. Frustrated, city officials called on the FCC to find out what was going on, and the problem, they were told, was that somebody was using a mobile radio transmitter to trigger the sirens illegally. Each blast lasted between 4 and 5 minutes, and multiple fire stations were affected. The FCC didn't actually investigate the incident, and city officials and Dallas residents were powerless to stop the blaring sirens in the middle of the night. The incident lasted a couple of weeks before it stopped, and the culprit was never found. Police communications in Pennsylvania's Mon Valley near Pittsburgh were plagued by annoying sounds ranging from belching, loud clicking, kazoo serenades, and what police discreetly called body sounds in the early 1990s. The sounds blared over the Twin River Council of Governments police radio frequencies for almost 2 years, sometimes interrupting important emergency transmissions. The frequency was used by police officers, tow trucks and constables in 11 communities in the Monongahela Valley and went on for around 2 years. Usually this type of interference goes away after a while as the culprits tend to get bored. Officers were instructed to ignore and try their best to work around the annoying transmissions, but it didn't stop. The FCC would sometimes be called in to investigate issues like this, but on this occasion they weren't called until much later. The speculation was that it could have been anything from someone who knows radio equipment to someone with an old police radio. McKeesport police said that they were close to solving the problem themselves, and the police chief said himself that he was sure the culprit was another police officer because of the times that the burper was on the air and the strength of the signal. He was convinced that the transmissions were coming from a police car, but others disagreed. Gertrude Anderson, a public affairs specialist with the FCC in Philadelphia, said, "Sometimes police cars are sold with radio still inside, which is not a great idea." FCC engineers were eventually called and tried to pinpoint the signal twice during 1991, but they said he was either not on or not on long enough for them to track the location. If found, the jammer could have faced a maximum penalty of 10 years in jail and a £100,000 fine if convicted, but despite dispatchers in the area keeping track of dates and times of the intrusions in order to match them with officers' work schedules, he was never found, and eventually, in late 1991, the interference suddenly stopped.